This is the iVanky FusionDock Max 2, and it's quite a bit different from other Thunderbolt 5 docks that I've used. From its design, to its port selection, to its display support, to its dual host port connections, this dock has a lot going for it, but it's not perfect. I do have a couple disclaimers. First, I want to mention that this video is not sponsored by iVanky or anyone else. iVanky did not send this to me, I bought it on Amazon with my own money. Second, this dock is only compatible with M series Macs. No Intel Macs, no Windows, no Linux support. And third, I have a history of working with CalDigit, the last of which was in May of 2025. So with that said, just look at this thing for a moment. The design of this FusionDock Max 2 stands out and I love it. This thing is built like a beautiful tank with a dark blue aluminum wrap that goes all the way around. The color reminds me of the midnight blue MacBook Air, although I don't have one here to compare it. On the inside, you have an orange block of copper alloy that looks like it's floating, with a blue faceplate on the front and the back. The contrast between the colors is awesome, and although I do like the look of other solid aluminum gray Thunderbolt docks out there, this design alone might be enough for me to keep this on my desk. This floating chassis also provides a thermal benefit as it allows air to move around the entire internal chassis, helping to keep it cool, along with the fan, which I'll talk more about in just a moment. And after using this dock for a week, I can honestly say that this is the coolest dock I have used, both in looks and temperature. No matter where I touch this thing, it barely feels above room temp, which is a big difference from some other Thunderbolt 5 docks that can get so hot it hurts to touch. With 23 ports, this dock surely has about everything you will need for work, and it connects to your Mac with 2 Thunderbolt 5 cables. Yes, because how Macs handle displays through Thunderbolt or USB-C, it requires 2 cables to get the full display support. On the backside, you have the 2 host ports, which provide up to 140 watts of power to your MacBook, and after you connect the 2 included cables, you connect the other ends to the Mac. For MacBook users, these cables are pretty cool. They're magnetic, so they connect directly to each other, making them the perfect distance when you slide them into the Thunderbolt ports on your MacBook. On the back of the FusionDock Max 2, you get 2 old USB-A ports for mouse, keyboard, or printer maybe. You get 2 10 gigabit per second USB-C ports, which is great for some cheaper SSDs like the Samsung T7 or T9. There are 3 Thunderbolt 5 ports for connecting displays, audio interfaces, or Thunderbolt SSDs like this 80 gigabit enclosure I have here. There's an HDMI port, an optical audio out, a combo headphone mic jack over here, and a 2.5 gigabit Ethernet connection, which I'm honestly a little disappointed with for the price, and for the 2 Thunderbolt 5 connections to the Mac, it seems 10 gigabit Ethernet would be a no-brainer. On the front, you have 2 more slow USB-A ports, 2 5 gigabit USB-A ports, 1 10 gigabit USB-A port, and 3 USB-C 10 gigabit per second ports. The left side USB-C port is also capable of up to 30 watts of power delivery, which is great for charging your iPhone or iPad at your desk, even when the dock is not connected to a computer. There's also another combo audio jack up here, and both micro and regular size SD card slots. That's a lot of ports, and if I'm being honest, it's way more than I actually need. If you look in the back with my regular desk setup, it's just a single display via USB-C, an external Thunderbolt drive for backups, which I can move to a 10 gigabit USB-C port, a 10 gigabit Ethernet adapter, and sometimes speakers via USB-C, or sometimes a second display or another Thunderbolt drive. For my workflow, there's just not a whole lot of things I need connected on a daily basis. On the front, I usually keep a mouse dongle plugged in. I will use the front ports for flash drives now and then or charge my iPhone, but I do use the SD slots a lot for moving video and audio to my computer. And the SD slots are slightly odd, as the top micro slot is spring-loaded, which I like, but the bottom is not. Plus, you have to flip the card over, which I keep forgetting to do. On the plus side, it is super smooth to get in and out of the dock, unlike the SD slot on the MacBook, which just feels like it's grinding when you insert it. Overall, I think the port selection is vast and more than most people need. I do wish it had 10 gigabit Ethernet, like I mentioned before, but I also would like to see CF Express A on a Thunderbolt dock so I could use faster storage from my cameras. I mean, why does no one have faster card readers on Thunderbolt 5 docks? There is one other thing on the front, which is a power button. I've done more than a few videos on docks, and one comment I see all the time is that many do not have power buttons. My first instinct to those comments is, why do you need to fully shut down the dock? But as I thought about it, it can make sense for people who are really energy conscious or people concerned about a laptop battery always being charged. For whatever reason, if you want it, this dock has it. The only downside to the power button is when you do turn it off, the power from the PD out port down here turns off as well. Looking at display support on the FusionDock Max 2, you can connect up to 3 displays natively as long as you have an Apple Silicon Max chip like the M1 Max or the M4 Max. To do that, you need to use one display on HDMI and the other 2 will be on Thunderbolt ports. If you have a non-Max series chip, then you'll be limited to 1 or 2 displays depending on what is supported on the chip and the computer you have. The HDMI port is limited to 60 Hz at 4K, but the Thunderbolt ports can do up to 240Hz depending on the resolution. I tested this all out using a 4K 60 display on HDMI, a 6K 60Hz display on USB-C, and a 4K 160Hz display on USB-C, and everything worked great, even through reboots. Over the last week, I spent some time testing everything I could. Thunderbolt 5 allows for up to 80 gigabits of bandwidth symmetrical or up to 120 gigabits of bandwidth to a display. I don't have anything that's Thunderbolt 5 except for an external SSD, which showed slightly lower speeds compared to directly connecting to the Mac. To be clear, this should be expected because you're sharing the bandwidth with the displays, the Ethernet, and anything else connected. Using a Western Digital Black SSD in the 80 gigabit OWC enclosure connected directly to the Mac, the write speed was about 900 megabytes faster than when connected to the dock, and 200 megabytes per second faster in read speeds. That's a big difference in write speed, but you would need to have an insane workflow for that to really matter. I will say though that this speed reduction when connected through the FusionDock Max 2 is less than the reduction I see on the TS5 and TS5 Plus with the same things connected. But again, in real world usage, it shouldn't matter much. On the plus side, I found that the SD reader on the FusionDock is faster than the built-in reader on the MacBook, reading at about 20 megabytes per second faster. Now, one thing I'm sure people are going to want to know about is the fan. Yes, there's a fan in the FusionDock Max 2. Yes, you can hear it, and 99% of the time, it's completely fine. No matter what I have connected, it doesn't get louder. It just emits a constant low noise that after a while I can just ignore. I have all kinds of things in my office that can make noise, including fans and lights. So for me, the fan on the dock just kind of fades into the background. And if you're in an office environment, you won't hear it at all. But sometimes I do notice a slightly different electronic sound coming from the dock. I think it starts somehow with writing to my SSDs. I'm not sure because it doesn't happen all the time, but it's kind of like an electrical disturbance sound, almost like when you used to put phones next to speakers back in like the 2 and 3G days. I get a little bit of that for a few seconds every now and then. So I might reach out to iVanky to see what's up with that, if anything. But in general, I don't hear it. Now the pricing of this dock is actually pretty good at $399, which is what the sale price usually is. For that, you get the triple display support and 23 ports. Compare that against the CalDigit TS5, which has 15 ports for the same $399 price, or the OWC Thunderbolt 5 dock, which has 11 ports for $299. All three of these have 2.5 gigabit Ethernet, and if you're like me and you don't actually need to use all the ports, then you might be able to save some money and go with another option. If you want to use 10 gigabit Ethernet like I do, you can use an adapter which takes up a Thunderbolt port and costs about $100 extra. Or you could just go with the CalDigit TS5 Plus that has 20 ports including 10 gigabit Ethernet at $499 and spend the same amount of money. Or now iVanky has a new FusionDock Ultra coming soon with 26 ports including 10 gigabit Ethernet built in and support for up to 4 displays. That's going to run a whopping $599 though, and just may be overkill for most needs. So with all of that in mind, would I recommend the iVanky FusionDock Max 2? Yeah, I do. I think that it has way more ports than most people need, but it gives you options. You can get up to 3 displays connected through the dock, and it has just a cooler design than every other dock out there. And despite not having 10 gigabit Ethernet built in, I really like this dock. If I hadn't seen the Ultra is coming, then this would be the one on my desk for the foreseeable future. However, because I'm me, I will probably look into picking up an Ultra for really no good reason or benefit to me. But what do you guys think about the FusionDock Max 2? Does this fit your needs for ports or external displays? Are you interested in the FusionDock Ultra or have something better in mind? Let me know in the comments down below. If you want to know what display I'm still using as my main display, hint, it's not the studio display, then check out this video right over here. Hit the thumbs up button if you liked it, hit subscribe if you want, and I'll see you next time.